We are living in a volatile political environment. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorable.
Come on, man.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Come on, man. And if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It was a debate.
I was constantly told by commentators and social influencers that the arrest and booking of Donald Trump in Georgia would be a devastating blow. The left will finally get what they have been longing for these past 6 years. Donald Trump is going to be arrested, and there's going to be a mugshot for them to drag around the kingdom of Troy. Well, they got their mugshot. But with that mugshot also came the legion of Trump supporters. What should have been a victory for the left was turned into a battle cry for the rights. Through the use of memes and trolling, what was intended to be an exercise in humility became a stoic display of solidarity. Trump turned his mugshot into an advantage with one single tweet. And what was supposed to be an act of justice was turned into a political persecution, and the polls are reflecting it. Now, I'm not going to cover too much of the Trump surrender in Fulton County, but I will touch on it in today's episode. We will also talk about the GOP debate. All that and more. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Deplorable Talk Show. You were here with Mr. Deplorable himself, Israel Perez. So, this is a show where I give you my unfiltered opinion on politics and culture. I know nothing about the things I choose to talk about, but this is America, where opinions are just like assholes. Everyone has one. I just choose to record mine and spread it on the internets. So, I wasn't being hyperbolic in the opening monologue when I said a stoic display of solidarity. You know, I don't think the left understands what they are doing with these indictments. They are politicizing people and communities that probably didn't give a shit about voting. No, they are helping Trump by making him relatable.
I'm here to support President Trump. You want to know why I'm here to support President Trump? Because they done did black men like this for decades. Make up charges and put them, so I know Trump is innocent. I support Trump against this corrupt, two-tiered justice system. That's why I'm here to show my support as a black man for Trump. And I'm wearing my shirt, Niggas for Trump 2024, and I mean that.
I love it. I love it, man.
Oh, it's a bunch of bullshit. It's going around the country. You know, Fannie Willis, she went to school with my sister. She's full of shit. She was full of shit then. So she's a puppet for the white liberal that is controlling everything. She's in front, but the white liberal back there pulling those strings, telling her what to do. That's what I think about her, making a fool of herself.
Do you think it's going to help his election?
Of course it is. It's going to elevate him all the way. I think we should make Trump king. That's how I feel. We should make him king.
Wouldn't that be kind of like communistic?
No, that's nowhere near communist. No, we just going to make him king, but we still got our freedoms and rights and everything. He for that. Yeah, Trump for king 2024.
That's actually my URL. I own that URL.
You own that URL?
Can I get your name?
Really? Oh, my name is Niggas for Trump 2024. Derek Gibson, a former,
my nigga.
Former candidate. I'm a former candidate for New York State Governor. Derek Gibson, look me up.
We should make Trump king. No, what a fucking statement, dude. You know, the left is making Trump into Julius Caesar. You know, Julius Caesar was seen by the citizens of Rome as a champion of the lower class, the man of the people. He was so popular that Rome's Senate saw him as a threat. Knowing they couldn't defeat him militarily, nor defeat him in the voting booths, they decided to go after him legally and charge him with crimes of stirring political violence and pursuing unauthorized wars. You know, the Senate, through political gymnastics and crooked legislation, was able to consider Caesar an enemy of the state, which stripped him of his legal immunities and allowed the Senate to prosecute him. But To make a long story short, Caesar marched on Rome, started a civil war, and amongst the chaos, his popularity grew stronger. The citizens of Rome gave him dictatorship for 10 years, and his popularity increased. The Roman citizens ultimately voted for Caesar to be the ultimate dictator for life. Now, I'm not going to say that a civil war is going to break out and the American people will vote in a dictatorship. That's why we have an electoral college, to prevent that kind of thing from happening. But the left's political persecution of Donald Trump is starting the early stages of a revolution. Whether good or bad, I don't know. And I guess it all depends on who wins, the populists or the neolibs. And I would rather live in a world where the populists win, which means Donald Trump needs to win. And what the left is currently doing right now is ensuring that happens because his popularity continues to increase. And Don Luker, I think that's how you say his last name, said it the best when being interviewed by Shani Rish.
What's your honest reaction to Trump's mugshot?
I think it's really a good thing for the black community because when you look at it, the Democrats really kind of forced the crime community on black people, bringing rappers to the White House, etc. And every time a mugshot come out of those said rappers, their album goes crazy. Now that Trump is no longer a stranger to the culture, he's a part of it, it's going to backfire. It's the worst thing they could have ever done and the best thing that we could have ever gotten. Trump 2024.
He makes some good points. Anyways, speaking of Trump support, the boy Vivek ran game at the GOP debate. He was the only reason I stuck around and watched that snooze fest. It sucked, dude. It was an hour and 45 minutes of listening to people talk that don't matter. DeSantis sounded like a super PAC pawn. Nikki Haley was being a cringy feminist. Chris Christie was shilling for the mainstream media. Mike Pence is still praying the gay away. Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson, and Doug Burgum basically stood there and watched the show. But the Flying V made it all worthwhile. So here's a clip of Vivek running the show.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in the Republican Party who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of what it means.
I'll drink to that, buddy.
If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Is down by 98% in the last century.
Listen. Hold on.
I've had enough already tonight.
Shut the fuck up,
of
Chris
a guy
Christie.
Who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same time amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that big hug. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality and the fact of the matter is...
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike, actually. We're just going to have some fun tonight. And the reality is, you have a bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs last week. The real choice we face in this primary is this. Do you want a super PAC puppet, Or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution? This isn't that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back
I
to
agree,
work
man.
by no longer paying them more
I
to
believe in
stay at
nuclear
home.
power.
Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy.
If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact.
Goddamn right.
Honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
You make me laugh because you sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer right. Hold on one second. You sit here in an answer.
The reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland. I was born in 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024.
The boy Vivek, he stole the show that night, man. You know, it was realistically just me kind of sitting there waiting for him to talk again. That's all that mattered to me. I was just like, nobody else matters on this stage. You know, everybody's vying for second place. You know, and if that's what Trump is going to do, which is choose a VP from the people who are currently behind him in the polls, Vivek's probably the choice. You know, I think so, at least. Anyways, so no big lead for this episode. It was a slow news week last week. You know, the GOP debate and the Trump mugshot dominated the news cycle. But other small things happened that I can rapidly fire off in a segment I have not done it in a while called Honorable Mentions. All right, so the hot dog warlord Progizhin was assassinated, or as Putin puts it, a tragic and untimely death. And here's a clip of Progozhin's private jet and a free fall after a bomb went off, or it was shot down. Who knows? Jesus. I forgot this music was in the background of it. I had forgotten all about that in that clip. I forgot I had all those fucking sound effects in that music. That's probably why I chose that one to play instead of the original one, but whatever. That's hilarious. You know? So, wildfires have been ravaging the Mediterranean. You know, and here's a clip to give you a glimpse of what that looks like. My heart goes out to the people of Greece because we know what you're experiencing out there, because that happens every fucking year around this time in the Pacific Northwest. Now, we could go with the narrative that was put out by law enforcement and people investigating the cause of the wildfires, which they say was caused by arsonists, and they have arrested 79 people in connection with these wildfires. Or we could go with the most trusted name in news. Why wildfires happen, debunking the myth that arson is to blame more than climate change. Okay. What's the role of climate change? Questions are now being raised around who and what is to blame for the fires. Climate change, arsonists, or both? While there are many factors that influence wildfires, it is climate change that is making them bigger and more frequent and is causing them to happen in places where they previously weren't very common. All right. So it's not a group of people, right? It's not a group of people that are making these fires a lot bigger. You know, it's climate change. No, I mean, it's up to you to decide on which narrative you want to believe. But I'm going to put my money on arsonists. Just saying. Now, and here's the last topic of this segment. COVID's back, baby! Now, the mainstream media's narrative is conspiracy theorists spread false information about the return of COVID-19 mandates. And that conspiracy theorist they are talking about is Alex Jones. And here's the clip in question.
So I get this call, and I'd actually gotten it on Tuesday evening, but I had so many messages I wasn't listening to it till Thursday in my office. And I know this person for 20 years, and they're high up in the transportation system in the TSA. It's actually the agency above them. And so I called them up, and they said, hey, I'm in town. Let's go meet. So I went and met them, and they said, listen, they called in the managers. This is going to happen middle of September. They're going to try to make all the TSA workers in airports wear them. Then by mid-October, Biden's going to try to bring back masks in the airports and on planes. And I said, well, that's insanely unpopular. What's their excuse? And they said, well, this new variant out of Canada that they say is so bad and hospital numbers are up. So you're going to see a rollout sometime in September of all this. And that's what we've been told. So then I got on the phone, called a few other feds I know. One of them answered with the Border Patrol. They said, yeah, we've been told COVID restrictions are coming back next month as well, that they'll be phased in.
Now, we will have to wait till September to see what happens. But Alex Jones has a damn good track record when it comes to his predictions. And the narrative is already beginning to take shape.
COVID is making a comeback this summer, so many of us would like to leave it in the past, but cases are once again on the rise. So when will new booster shots roll out? Ann Thompson asked the CDC director.
This summer, most Americans left COVID in the past, gathering together once again mask-free. But tonight, signs of a COVID resurgence. Across the country, COVID hospitalizations jumped more than 14% in the most recent week, but far lower than pandemic levels. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel.
What's behind this uptick in COVID that we're seeing? The main driver of this is a variant that's relatively newer to the scene, EG5. It's easier to give and get, so that makes it kind of easier to pass along.
It's been almost a year since the last COVID booster came out. CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen.
The new COVID booster is expected to be approved by the FDA, and then we will make recommendations from the CDC probably by the second or third week of September.
Will it protect against this new strain?
Yes. The booster is tailored to what we are seeing circulating now.
Critics say the federal government is behind once again. People knew there was going to be a COVID resurgence. So why don't we have a booster today? Why do we have to wait until next month?
The way we go about doing our, just like we do with our flu shots, right? We make sure that we're looking at the ways in which the virus changed. They look at and evaluate that. The FDA is doing its work. We likely will see this as an annual COVID shot, just like the flu shot.
Just in time for fall, when we'll also face RSV. Can you take the flu shot, the COVID booster, and the RSV vaccine all at once?
So for flu and COVID, yes. RSV, again, is only available for older adults. That's one where I'd say talk to your doctor about what's right for you.
So until the new COVID booster comes, get prepared. Stock up on at-home tests. They do cover that new strain. Keep a mask handy in case you're in a crowded place. And most of all, get your shots, COVID, flu, and RSV, all by Halloween to give yourself your best chance of staying healthy.
A reminder that COVID never went away.
A reminder that COVID-19 never went away. You know, it's getting odd. I don't like it. You know, and after that NBC segment, we start seeing articles like this pop up. Lionsgate reinstates mask mandates in parts of Santa Monica office following COVID outbreak. Atlanta-based Morris Brown College says they are reinstating COVID mask mandates. Rutgers will still require COVID vaccines. Over 100 schools will require students to be vaccinated this year. Rutgers guidelines sparking some outcry in New Jersey. You know, if they are so worried about conspiracy theorists spreading false narratives, they need to stop making it so fucking easy to connect the dots. Because you're going to get people like me saying, that seems a little weird. I feel like I've seen this before, and I know where this road leads to. So let's never forget how they scared us into submission.
New warning from the World Health Organization. The death rate from the coronavirus is rising.
3.4% is higher.
Twice as deadly as previous estimates.
3.4%. State of emergency.
Well, I think the 3.4% is really a false number. Based on a lot of conversations with a lot of people that do this, I think the number is way under 1%.
So to fact check, the World Health Organization says the coronavirus death rate is 3.4%.
President Trump lies that the World Health Organization is wrong.
The number is 3.4%. 3.4% is what it's being reported around the world.
Making it deadlier. So much death.
The death rate.
The percentage is 3.4%. And no hunch from the president can change that.
Trump lied about the most recent World Health Organization estimate that the global death rate of coronavirus is 3.4%.
The 3.4% death rate was wrong, and WHO data later updated it to
a fraction of 1%.
Let's go back into history.
Trump has a hunch that the death rate is lower than 1%.
Way under 1%.
Way under 1%. Will someone put a mozzarella stick in his stupid hole?
Trump lied to viewers about the mortality rate.
Way under 1%.
False information.
She's spreading disinformation.
Misinformation and dangerous disinformation.
If you're president of the United States, you have the world's greatest scientists at your disposal. You listen to them.
Leading scientists, including Dr. Fauci, wrote in the New England Journal of Medicine that the death rate could be considerably less than 1%.
Way under 1%.
Why are you going on national television and contradicting experts based on a hunch?
His fake hunch with some fake math.
The president somehow thinks it could be lower than 1% based on nothing.
Based on a lot of conversations with a lot of people that do this.
Outright lies, contradicting health officials on fatality rates.
It's not a time for Donald Trump to be calling into cable shows. It's a time for the CDC.
What is CDC's best estimate of the fatality rate?
It's somewhere between 0.5% and 1%.
A fraction of 1%.
The president is spreading false information.
Discarding what the health professionals are saying.
Outright bogus information.
Science is not based on hunches.
A hunch about what he thinks is going on.
Instead of trusting information from doctors and scientists,
he has a hunch.
Hunch.
A hunch.
It's not a time for Donald Trump's hunches. It's a time for science. It's a time for doctors.
Welcome, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya.
My hypothesis was it was likely to be less deadly than the World Health Organization was saying.
3.4%.
There's no way that was true.
Really false false number.
This is why I ran the study in April of 2020.
And what did you discover?
The infection fatality rate was 0.2%.
Way under 1%.
Trump continues to contradict and downplay all things coronavirus.
The president appearing to contradict medical experts on the mortality rate of the virus.
Personally, I would say the number is way under 1%.
Later on CNN.
Our estimates are probably pretty inflated.
Very high because the easy cases, they don't report to doctors or the hospital in many cases. So
initially, WHO released estimates of 3.4%.
Really a false number.
The true infection fatality rate is likely to be far, far less.
Way under 1%.
It could be in the range of a seasonal influenza.
A fraction of 1%. This is just my hunch.
He is spreading misinformation and disinformation.
You can even call it information.
An outbreak of sketchy information coming from the president.
He's using a hunch instead of listening to the Global Authority on Public Health.
A hunch.
There's a lot to be concerned about.
His hunch.
A hunch.
Hunches.
Just my hunch.
His hunch.
His hunch.
My hunch.
Based on a lot of conversations with a lot of people. That's not what you want for the American people.
A hunch.
There you go. And thank you to Matt Orfilia for putting that clip together. And this was Honorable Mentions. All right, guys, that ends the show. Thank you for watching. If you like the show and are watching on Rumble or YouTube, please give a like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, please hit the subscribe button. You know, I'd appreciate it. Anyways, take care, guys. See you next episode.